About 50% of all the drugs that are approved are withdrawn quietly within about 5 years because they're so dangerous. Even the FDA has to withdraw them. These drugs contain genetically modified bits and pieces and parts, and cows are being genetically modified to give pharmaceutical milk, and plants are being genetically modified to give pharmaceutical molecules. And these animals and these plants contaminate us when we eat them, in the case of the animals, and every other plant on the planet, and insects, and other kinds of life forms as they spread their deadly DNA across the planet. This must be stopped. The Natural Solutions Foundation at www.healthfreedomusa.org has a petition that you can sign online, an action against GMOs, and it says GMOs must be banned, and they must be banned now.
The world is becoming a very strange place indeed. We are speaking with Dr. LeBeau of healthfreedomusa.org, and let me urge all of you one more time to get over there and purchase a DVD called Nutricide. You will not be disappointed. And she also has a comprehensive Codex ebook that you can get, and several organic products, and you know how I feel about organic and heirloom and all that sort of stuff. Dr. LeBeau, these patented genetically modified organisms that can infect or even, I guess, contaminate the all-natural crops, the heirlooms, because of simply wind-blown GMO pollen. Tell us the ramifications this can cause farmers.
Well, let's take alfalfa. Genetically modified alfalfa as a good example of the answer to your question. Alfalfa is the 5th most grown crop in the United States. It is used for cattle feed. It is used for many things. Alfalfa is a perennial. It doesn't die after its harvest season. It comes back the next year, which of course is nice for the farmer, because he doesn't have to plant it again. Alfalfa is very, very, very important for organic farmers who raise our organic cattle, and that means for the production of organic milk. Monsanto was about to release its GMO alfalfa crop when food vigilantes, freedom vigilantes, and by the way, we believe at the Natural Solutions Foundation that access to clean, unadulterated food is part of your health freedom. You cannot be healthy if you cannot access clean, unadulterated food. And one of the most political things that you can do at this point in your life is to grow your own food, because very shortly, if the Harkin Bill S510 passes, and again, we have an action item that we urge you to take once for every member of your family and then disseminate to everybody that you know by going to www.healthfreedomusa.org. If this bill passes, not only will it bring the fullness of Codex harmonization, and I urge you to capitalize the first 4 letters in your mind, H-A-R-M, harmonization, but it will destroy your legal right to grow your own local, personal food supply. So you better start doing it now. You better start learning how now, and you better start defending your right to do it now. So
yeah, if we, Dr. Label, let me cut in here 1 second. Yeah, if we all just simply ignore that, as I think you're implying, then there's simply nothing they can do, and we can put their criminal system out of business.
Precisely.
If you could just tell us give us a good summary of what Codex exactly is, a plan that stemmed from the Nazis. And so tell us all about it.
The alfalfa thing is that the alfalfa was prohibited from being planted until the USDA conducted its legally required environmental impact study. Well, they did an environmental impact study, which they released recently, and they said, yes, it's going to put organic farmers out of business. Yes, it's going to contaminate the world. Yes, there will be no more organic alfalfa, basically, in the world. Yes, the economic devastation will be ghastly, but hey, we're going to approve it anyway, and they did. Now, Codex Alimentarius. The executives, the head guys of the German civilian war machine, IG Farben, were by and large pharmaceutical guys. They worked for Bayer Pharmaceutical, they worked for BASF. Those pharmaceutical companies, by the way, had controlling interests in them owned by John D. Rockefeller Jr., who bought them because pharmaceuticals at that time were primarily coal tar derivatives. They were made from the goo left over after petroleum was processed, called coal tar. And so he sent his agents to Europe, specifically to Germany, and bought controlling interests in the entire pharmaceutical industry. Now, when it came time for Germany to make war against the United States, which of course was of immense profit to the both grandfathers of President Bush and John D. Rockefeller and the Roosevelt family, when it came time for Germany to create a civilian war machine, an industrial war machine, the pharmaceutical industry, which is also the chemical industry, of course, was the perfect place to tap these executives, because these people had already been participating in the genocide against the German people in the Action 4 program, in which the useless eaters of Germany were being killed by Germans from about 1922. So they were ready to go. They'd already been injecting experimental drugs into children's hearts and so on. They were primed. So these folks carried out their Holocaust activities and their slave labor activities and ran the German war machine. After the German defeat, the Nuremberg war tribunals were convened for the first time in history to hold criminals of war accountable for their crimes. And the head guys, including Fritz Termeer, who had been the head of Bayer Pharmaceutical before IG Farben was created, and then was the head guy of IG Farben, he went to jail for creating Auschwitz and the Auschwitz labor camp and selling human beings and doing all those awful things. Well, within less than 4 years, all of the pharmaceutical executives were out of jail, and they had been returned to their former positions as heads of the pharmaceutical companies. Fritz Termeer was a very creative sort of monster, and he called the guys who used to work for him and who were now heads of their own companies again, he called them together and he said, gentlemen, let us have the United Nations take over the world's supply of food, and let us then be able to control that world supply of food. And they all said, well, that's a really great idea. And they've created a letter which Fritz Termeer delivered to the United Nations in 1952, suggesting this program. The United Nations said,